We're bringing breaking news to you this hour. Our Pakistan Bureau Chief, Taha Siddiqui, who reports extensively on affairs in Pakistan, has been targeted. Taha's car was stopped by 10 to 12 men while he was on his way to the airport. He was beaten up. What we do understand at this point is that he's with the police, but we'll show you some tweets that sum up the story so far. First one is from the Twitter handle of the Pakistani journalist Cyril Almeida, who, remember, has run afoul with authorities in Pakistan himself. He says in this tweet, quote, "This is Taha Siddiqui using Cyril's account. I was on my way to airport today at 8:20 a.m. when 10 to 12 armed men stopped my cab and forcibly tried to abduct me. I managed to escape, safe and with police now, looking for support in any way possible. Hashtag stop enforced disappearances." Now, these are some of the tweets that have made their way onto social media regarding the abduction or the attempted abduction of our colleague, Pakistan Bureau Chief of WION, Taha Siddiqui. Now, a number of journalists in Pakistan have taken to Twitter to condemn this act. Here's another tweet, this one from yet another Pakistani journalist, Asad Hashim's handle. It says, quote, "With Taha Siddiqui right now, it is a miracle that he escaped. He was beaten, threatened with death and his belongings taken. This is unacceptable. Journalism is not a crime," end quote. So that gives you an idea of the condition that our colleague Taha Siddiqui is in. Remember, for viewers who are just joining us right now, just to bring you up to speed on what's happened, our Pakistan Bureau Chief Taha Siddiqui, who reports extensively on affairs in Pakistan, some of them contentious issues as well, was on his way to the airport this morning. His car was stopped by 10 to 12 men. He was beaten up, and what we understand right now is that he's with the police. A number of people have started taking to Twitter to condemn what has happened with Taha. Remember, Taha has been targeted by Pakistani authorities in the past as well. Last time around also a number of people had rallied together for his safety. But right now here is the update. The first tweet on your screens right now is from Cyril Almeida. He is a Pakistani journalist. Taha has forced to use Cyril's account to send out this tweet. Another tweet tells us why that has happened. It's because his phone and other belongings were taken from him when 10 to 12 armed men stopped his cab and forcibly tried to abduct him. Taha somehow managed to escape. He is currently, from what we understand, with the police. We're trying to ascertain his safety and understand the sequence of events, what exactly happened, why it is that Taha's car was stopped. He was in Islamabad when all of this happened. Now, just to give you an idea of some of the other tweets that are coming in on Taha's, the incident involving Taha from just this morning. Now, this happened at around 8:50 a.m. India time, 8:20 a.m. Pakistan time is what we are given to understand. That tweet on your screens is from the noted Pakistani journalist Cyril Almeida. Taha's forced, of course, to use Cyril's account to inform people of the situation that he finds himself in. Another journalist, Sune Engel Rasmussen, has also tweeted about Taha. Let me quote him. We're trying to get that tweet up for you on your screens, but for those of you who are joining us, here's an idea of what international journalists have to say also about Pakistan's record when it comes to the safety of media persons within the country. Sune Rasmussen says, and I quote him here, "Taha Siddiqui, one of Islamabad's finest journalists, was abducted today. A court last year ordered the Federal Investigation Agency to stop harassing him. Stay strong, Taha," end quote. Another tweet that we've got up for you actually from Asad Hashim, who's also a Pakistani journalist, says, quote, "With Taha Siddiqui right now, it's a miracle that he escaped. He was beaten, threatened with death and his belongings taken. This is unacceptable. Journalism is not a crime. On the broadcast with me right now is WION senior correspondent Ramesh Ramachandran to get more perspective on what's happening. Ramesh, if you can share some details with us, what exactly do we know about Taha's condition right now?
Good afternoon, Aisha. This is what we know so far, although we have not been able to make contact with Taha yet. But we're given to understand, based on Taha's tweet, which was tweeted from Cyril Almeida's another journalist account this morning, at about 8:50 a.m. India time or 8:20 a.m. local time in Pakistan. He was allegedly accosted by about 10 or 12 people, unidentified persons. He was on his way to the airport on an official leave, traveling back home. When he was accosted, he was intimidated, threatened with death, and he was assaulted and attacked. But he managed to flee and make his way to the nearest police station, where we are told at the moment he is located. He is safe, but he is shaken up, he is injured, and he was beaten up by unidentified persons early this morning. And this is not the first time the case of intimidation and harassment of journalists in Pakistan is occurring, Aisha. There have been any number of reports of journalists being attacked, and Taha is the latest in a series of attacks on media persons targeting their free, fair and fearless journalism, especially Taha, who was reported on the Kulbhushan Jadhav case, who was reported on the Balochistan case, who was reported from Lahore on the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jamaat-ud-Dawa, the Milli Muslim League story, and also about the disappearance of journalists, including civilians from Pakistan over the last many months.
Right, and of course Taha had approached the courts last year as well, Ramesh, when a similar incident had taken place, and back then the court had asked the federal agency to stop intimidating Taha, but clearly it seems like that hasn't prevented this incident from taking place.
Indeed, Aisha, as I mentioned, this is not the first time journalists in Pakistan have been threatened with death, with intimidation, harassment, and Taha, as I mentioned, is the latest in a series of journalists who have been assaulted, intimidated, attacked in Pakistan. Taha in particular has been working on a number of stories concerning the Kulbhushan Jadhav case, which is an ongoing case for the last many months now. He has been to Balochistan. He's reported from there, from the ground for WION and Z Media. He was also covering, doing stories from Lahore most recently, earlier this year, when he did stories about the Milli Muslim League and about the Jamaat-ud-Dawa and Hafiz Said in particular, and also the cases of disappearance of journalists and civilians of Pakistan alike. Most recently that of Zinat Shehzadi, who was come back from abduction, and another case from Lahore. So a multiple number of reasons which possibly could have annoyed or antagonized the powers that be in Pakistan. But this is unprecedented, and one which at least we at WION and Z Media condemn, and we expect Pakistan authorities to ensure his safety and well-being for the duration of his detention at the police station.
Absolutely, that has to be underscored repeatedly, Ramesh. We're standing by our colleague. We're waiting to hear as soon as possible from authorities in Pakistan as far as his condition goes, and also ask questions as to why exactly this happened. Ramesh, you were mentioning, of course, that Taha Siddiqui, our Pakistan Bureau Chief, has been reporting extensively on sometimes issues that are considered contentious within Pakistan. Around the same time that the Kulbhushan Jadhav case was in the media, WIONnews.com was also taken down for public viewing from Pakistan. Do you think we need to take note of that as well as we're looking at the developments from today?
Absolutely, Aisha. This is yet another manifestation of the worsening relations between India and Pakistan, and journalists who are the custodians and upholders of free and fair information reportage are being collateral damage, so to speak, in this case. In the last several minutes, Aisha, we've heard from many Pakistani journalists, including Hamid Mir, who works with Geo News in Pakistan, and he has tweeted, if I could just quote him, he says, "Journalist community must condemn the kidnapping attempt of Taha Siddiqui with full unity, no compromise on harassment of media," unquote. This coming from the tweet of Hamid Mir, a senior journalist in Pakistan. Hamid Mir, incidentally, himself was attacked, targeted by intelligence agencies in Pakistan not so long ago. He survived that assassination bid when he was shot at and injured a couple of years ago. So journalists coming out in full support of Taha Siddiqui and ensuring and demanding the freedom to report and security of journalists working in Pakistan.
Absolutely. In fact, Amir Shaheen is joining us on the phone line right now from Lahore. Mr. Shaheen, thanks very much for speaking with us. Your first reaction, sir, to the fact that our colleague Taha Siddiqui was, attempted abduction took place this morning. 10 to 12 armed men tried to stop his cab and abduct him. What exactly does this say about the condition of journalists in Pakistan?
My initial reaction is a sigh of relief that Taha is indeed, as another journalist has tweeted, Taha has used another journalist's Twitter account to tell his colleagues and his family that he is fine, he's safe, he's with the police. This initial sigh of relief, apparently the alleged abduction attempt has been a failure, but that is where the problem lies. Usually when journalists are attacked in Pakistan, and the attack or the abduction attempt or assassination attempt, when it's a failure, unless it's a very high-profile case like that of Hamid Mir, it is not highlighted till that those failed in Pakistan. Some of them, their cases have been raised and there have been commissions on it. Some of the commissions have reserved the report of the commission. Some of the commission reports that have come out, at least in the journalistic community, point towards very powerful places of power in Pakistan that these attempted abductions have been taking place. I have also previously mentioned that there was an attempt to abduct me. I was harmed. I was assaulted in Lahore, Pakistan. And those people were arrested and they were taken away by powerful people. There is documentary evidence to support the claim. I think there has to be some kind of a commission set up to take care of all these failed attempts on journalists, all these harassment cases on journalists. Usually, maybe they don't want to abduct somebody, but they would serve as a method to harass journalists to do some self-censorship at least. So these, I would hope that perhaps the judiciary can take a suo motu notice and invite all and any journalists who have any evidence of such attacks taking place on them. And then, in the light of the evidence, understand the kind of underlying harassment that's taking place against journalists. Taha obviously works for WION, so he has a connection with an Indian international channel. Obviously, that may not reside too well with some forces in Pakistan, and they may not like the fact that he works for a channel that is not Pakistani, that's Indian. But having said that, justice has to prevail, and Taha has went previously to the Supreme Court to get justice when he was harassed by the Federal Investigation Agency.
Yes.
This has to stop, and I think one of the powerful judges from the Supreme Court has to take a suo motu action, set up a commission where these so-called unsuccessful bids to abduct or harass journalists are taking place and take action on that.
Absolutely. In fact, the court had asked the FIA to stop harassing Taha Siddiqui last time around, but clearly that hasn't made an impact, the kind of impact we're hoping it should make as far as these, attempts at intimidating journalists go. Emma Shaheen, thanks very much for joining us and sharing your perspective with us. On the phone line also with me right now is Sultan Halli. He's a defense analyst. Mr. Halli, thank you very much for joining us. Does this bode very badly for journalists who are trying to do their job in Pakistan?
Yeah, it is, and I'm very sorry to hear about this particular news. In the near past, there are other journalists also who have not only been abducted, but Taha Siddiqui is lucky to be alive. There are some people who have been killed in cold blood. Their bodies have been dumped, and I condemn this incident with my utmost feelings, and I hope that such dangers to the practicing journalists comes to an end. There is a legislation already underway, but I don't know if the legislation is enough. There should be some action to ensure that journalists can work without endangering their lives to this kind of harassment, or in the worst case, even losing their lives.
Absolutely. We appreciate your sentiment, Mr. Halli. We don't know who these alleged abductors are, but if you had to wager a guess, who could be behind this sort of intimidation?
Well, actually, it is unfortunate. Pakistan is passing through a very bad phase of its history. There are a number of, players who are in it. Many of the incidents which took place earlier, it was traced back to Taliban or it was traced back to terror organizations. So until somebody is apprehended, in some cases, some people have been caught, but after that particular journalist had been killed. So, and they have also been given punishment, but it is too early to say who was behind this, but whoever it is, as I said, I condemn it.
Absolutely. Mr. Halli, thanks very much for sharing your perspective with us. Mateen Haider, a senior journalist, joining us also from Pakistan right now. Mr. Haider, we're extremely disturbed knowing what's happened with our colleague in Pakistan, Taha Siddiqui. But I'm trying to understand, Mr. Halli, who is a defense expert, said that there's reason to believe that it could be terror organizations that could be behind abductions and intimidation of this kind. But what do you say to critics who point out the complicity of Pakistani authorities in the sort of intimidation that journalists face?
Yes, well, as far as the attack with Taha Siddiqui is concerned, we cannot write in the beginning accuse the state or the state authorities behind this. Our perspective is that this young gentleman, Mr. Taha Siddiqui, is not that high-profile character. Of course, whatever happened, and attempt to abduct him is strongly regrettable and strongly condemned. And motive so far behind this particular incident is yet to be made public. Although police has registered a case and investigating the entire matter on the story shared by Mr. Taha Siddiqui. But right in the beginning, it cannot be said that so-and-so is involved. Right, so Pakistan and South Asia particularly, entire South Asia, including Afghanistan, Pakistan and India and Bangladesh, these countries are not friendly as far as reporting is concerned. There are threats from multiple sectors. It could be from non-state actors, it could be from criminals, it could be from underworld. So usually it has become also practice, unfortunately, in the part of media to immediately blame the state or the state institutions. Later on, once the findings come from the surface and actual perpetrators or the characters seem to be the different ones. So we should have to wait till the police complete the investigation. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan is quite vulnerable as far as freedom of press, expression or reporting is concerned. There are threats from multiple sectors and from multiple organizations as well, including non-state actors and including terror groups as well.
All right. Thanks, Mr. Haider.